Internet came back up. That's good.
Good.
Luckily, we have Cox Cable Business, so I think they answer a lot quicker.
Good, man. Yeah, whatever I could do on my end to help.
Thank you. You know, I couldn't remember if you had told me just give him my email, because I was going to put your text for the Bellator people. And I go, I think you just said something about the email. And I remember one time you told me you prefer everything via email because you're constantly on it.
Yeah,
so I left it out, and then right away you put your text like, "Oh, I'm an idiot. I should."
Yeah, no, it's all good, man. No, just in general, like before shows or whatever, I like to do email just because I'm literally at the computer. Sometimes I have the phone charged in, or something like that. But like in a situation with like if a guest needs to change, then then I'll just deal with the rep quickly by text or whatever.
Gotcha.
Basically, text if it's something urgent. Email if it's just a conversation or whatever.
Looks like Goes is giving me a thumbs up in regards to the internet.
Call Marcos now.
We're on commercial.
Yeah, back in 1 minute.
We're back in 1 minute.
If you cross them, they will destroy you. Just ask Three Finger Eddie and Pete the Penguin. Who are they, you ask? My point exactly. They are Gorgeous George and Goes. And this is MMA Junkie Radio.
All right, our next guest, he gets down in the boxing world and the MMA world. He's the founder of Fight Hub TV. Very, very successful YouTube channel. Check it out. Subscribe. Give him some love. You can hear him from time to time when you're watching boxing because he's the unofficial ringside scorer there for PBC. And like I mentioned before, he also covers mixed martial arts. So let's talk to Marcos Villegas. What's up, Marcos? Welcome back, man. How you doing?
Oh, man, I'm good. It's been a while, guys. I'm glad I'm on here with you all.
Yeah, man. No, seriously. That's our bad. You're very, very talented, and you're from the OC like us, so please accept our apology, man. We should have you on way more often. We're starting to follow boxing again like we used to in the 80s and 90s. And, boxing has had an incredible resurgence the last 5 years. Just when people thought it was going to die after Pacquiao and Mayweather were kind of like sailing off into the sunset, and that's so not true. So you got my word. We're going to have you on more often, my man. But we're glad to have you on tonight.
Oh, man, super excited to be on with you guys. I was just thinking, like, how far back we go, and I think I've known you guys for, 8 years, I think. I met you guys when I was very young in the game, when I was barely starting out.
Yeah, for sure. At least a decade, yeah. I remember hanging out at the Tustin Brewery and running into you a lot there in the OC. So, also, when you find yourself in Vegas, come through, all right?
No, I will, for sure, I will.
Marcos, we were just talking with our producer, Josh, who also produces At the Fights, and he made the note, even though there's some big names boxing, like Wilder, Canelo, Danny Garcia, Terrence Crawford, some big names, big fights, there's a big disparity in the lines, like the, minus 1,800 for Crawford this weekend. minus 3,000 for Danny Garcia. Why is that? Is that the way boxing always is? Have I just kind of missed the boat on that one, or is it rare when you have a little bit more of a minus 180 and a plus 150?
I want to say it's a little bit not as common as we see in MMA. In MMA, they just throw you in, and wherever you rank, you rank. On the boxing side of thing, I think it's still very. We're I don't want to say recovering, but we're seeing how successful Floyd was with how he managed his career, and a lot of guys coming in are looking, let me make the most amount of money I can.
Right.
And I'll take the hard fights, but I only take the hard fights when I really need to. Like, let me get, a fight here or there where I can make, a quick million, a quick 2 million. So, not to say that, the Garcia-Granados fight isn't going to be competitive. I think that fight is going to be very competitive, but the overwhelming favorite is Danny Garcia. Does Granados have a chance to win? He does, but it's not very likely. Same thing with the Terrence Crawford and Amir Khan fight.
Right.
Same thing. Is Khan going to be competitive? Yeah, he's always competitive with anybody he fights. But Khan has a lot of chin problems, and anytime he's been touched in the chin, he's gone down, and a lot of people are looking at Crawford as well. Very complete fighter. Yeah, he has trouble from time to time with guys who have speed, but you're in there with an Amir Khan that's vulnerable, and at some point he's going to get touched. So I think for those two instances, that's why the odds are reflecting, because the fights are going to be competitive, but there's a very high unlikelihood that Danny Garcia and Terrence Crawford are not going to win these fights.
Is that a little bit why MMA is in a way attractive? Because if these gentlemen, like you mentioned, Khan and Crawford, Garcia and Granados, if they were fighting with 4-ounce gloves like they do in MMA, because of their ability to catch each other, it's not like Crawford's not going to get hit. We know he's a superior boxer. That's where the game can change, and that's why maybe you wouldn't see those kind of odds in MMA.
Well, I think if you were to see 4-ounce gloves in boxing, it wouldn't be a pretty thing. Exciting fights, more knockouts, but I think because 3 minutes, 12 rounds, it would not be a pretty thing to see that 10 years from now. But these guys are more attracted to. I don't want to sound cliche, but and he could call the shots. They're a lot easier to make when everybody's in house. We eventually get to see an MMA, or we see them pretty soon. In boxing, it's a little bit more difficult because constructing is going up against each other. And now for their fighter, they're trying to maximize the amount of money they can get. And fights happen.
Okay. Khan and Terrence Crawford out in New York, and I believe this is the Home Depot Center now. I think it's called a sports park. I've been away.
Marco, so the Amir Khan fight, it reminds me of Alvarez. You have an Amir Khan, but you have he feels like is the superior fighter here with Terrence Crawford. So
I'm not sure the discretion or what prior punishments have they given out for something like this. And you got to think too as well. Is it going to be something similar to what they gave, like a T.J. Dillashaw?
Yeah.
Even though I know that's I know that's a USADA thing and that's a UFC thing. But you got to use that example and see where they're going to want to go with this, because we've seen with Canelo Alvarez, he was given 6 months.
Yeah, he was given detention.
But with other fighters, they get more.
Yeah.
It's dependent. And the other thing, we haven't heard anything from Big Baby Miller yet.
Yeah.
It could be a situation. He posted something on his social media, like I want to say 30 minutes ago, which he says he didn't take anything. And the verbiage that he used made it seem like he might have taken a tainted supplement. That he said that he had taken a previous test and he tested clean for it. So we got to wait and see, because if it is a tainted supplement, situation, we could see something that's like the Canelo situation where he's not giving as harsh of a punishment as opposed to somebody who comes out and admits it and doesn't fight it, that they failed a drug test like a TJ Dillashaw.
Yeah, and Canelo's was 6 months. I remember that one. And Dillashaw was 1 year because New York first taxed him. They said 1 year for Dillashaw. Then USADA was a whole separate punishment, and they gave him 2 years. So I guess that there's some precedence there for New York, and there's precedence there with high-profile, a former, well, not a former because Canelo still fights, but a previous case there of a high-profile fighter and how they dealt with that, because I think he had the same defense, the tainted meat, if I'm not mistaken, in Mexico.
Yeah, you got to watch out for that taco meat, George.
Yeah.
You got to watch out for that stuff.
It's all tainted meat.
Now, Jumbo Josh, our producer on At the Fights, he also produces this show. He was saying that Miller was in studio, and he was actually pointing the finger at Joshua. So how about the irony dripping there?
Yeah, that's not a good look because he's done interviews with everybody that he's accused Anthony Joshua of taking performing-enhancing drugs. So, you go and you say all that, and then all of a sudden you go and you test positive for this substance, which I don't know the name of. I know what it does, but it has a weird name. It's like GM, and it has like some sort of, it sounds like some sort of avian flu. It's like GM 151 or something weird like that.
I got it here. It's GW 1516, or cardarine is, I guess, the more technical name, scientific name. But it increases aerobic power and endurance.
What kind of name is that? GW15 sounds like a virus. GW1516.
That or like a new bike or something. Let's go riding this weekend. I got my GW1516.
I think GW15's playing at EDC this weekend, right?
It could be. That could be a DJ name. Yeah, I don't know. All right, so how about this?
No, but the thing is, too, that makes you think.
Uh-huh.
Before we get into that, the other thing is that drug is used to cut weight. And Miller, this is the thing that trips me out. Miller's a big heavyweight, but you're a heavyweight. When you're a heavyweight, you don't have to really cut when you're a heavyweight. You're a heavyweight. Like, cutting, maybe, but that's not like a big priority for a heavyweight. That's one of the luxuries you have as a heavyweight fighter. You don't have to worry so much about cutting weight, which to me is just completely odd about the whole thing.
Yeah, I agree. Does this bring us closer in any way to, like, it's ridiculous to me, and I'm way in the outfield, Marco, so I'm not obviously like you in the dugout, up close to the sport of boxing. I'm way out there, but Wilder, Fury, Joshua, like, these guys need to be fighting each other, and they have, they're in three separate directions. I think it may go back to what you were saying earlier. It's just, there's too many hands in the cookie jar, and we can't get them all together. Not only is it promoters, but I guess fighters that are assigned to like television platforms or streaming platforms. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it makes it tough, though. I think, for the situation of Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, it's a lot more likely because we've seen in the past, and like we said, we can use past situations as examples, and one being the Mayweather-Pacquiao situation where one fighter was aligned with HBO, that being Pacquiao, and the other fighter aligned with Showtime, being Mayweather. They can come together to do something if it makes sense, where they do a joint pay-per-view and they share in the revenue, and whoever wins the fight gets the rebroadcasting rights. So because ESPN is a terrestrial platform, and so is Showtime Fox with Wilder, that fight is more likely because they're in the same business philosophy. Now, when you look at Anthony Joshua and DAZN, it's a heck of a lot harder for him to make a fight with either guy because DAZN's whole spiel is no pay-per-view. That's their whole business philosophy, is no more pay-per-view. We're done with pay-per-view. It's over. So how are they going to go and make a fight with Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder and then not be on DAZN? It would make absolutely no sense for them. It would go against every single thing they put in marketing dollar-wise and their business philosophy-wise. There's no way. So any fight with Wilder and Fury up against Joshua is going to be extremely hard to make, though not impossible, but it's going to be extremely hard to make.
Now, Marcos, there is something that could go on pay-per-view, and I'll explain. Now, our friends on At the Fights, Randy Gordon and Jerry Cooney, who we know well and love, I need your take on what should happen to their bet. Now, they bet on this Joshua Miller fight. Jerry picked Joshua to win. Randy picked Miller to win when the fight was still active. They wagered, Marcos, the loser, whoever was wrong about the fight, on the Monday after the show would have to do the entire show in a diaper. Now, because Big Baby, obviously, the nickname. Now that the fight is not happening, what should the result of the bet be? Should Randy have to wear the diaper? He did pick Miller. Does the bet continue based on the new opponent? What say you?
You should make him wear the diaper just because it'd be funny and hilarious to see him wear the diaper. Just make him wear it anyways.
Thank you. I'll pass that on.
Yeah, tell him that. Tell him I said that too.
All right. Well, I would really like to. I've been wanting to see Wilder and Fury for a couple of years now. I don't want it to become Pacquiao and Mayweather where we see it too late. And luckily, I don't think we're in that boat. I'm not sure of their ages, but I don't think they need the guys pushing 40, obviously, because I remember seeing Joshua in the Olympics. But regardless, I wish both sports could learn from each other. And in the case of boxing, man, look what the UFC does. Sometimes it's hard to get two guys together. That's for sure. Ferguson and fucking Khabib have been booked like 4 times, and we can't make it happen. But for the most part, like the other 99% of the fights, they get made, man. The fans love it. So hopefully, boxing, learns that from MMA.
Here's the thing, boxing has learned a lot from MMA. I think over these past 5-6 years with the PBC deal and ESPN jumping on board, they have learned a lot of things. But at the end of the day, I think, really what's different is the fighters have a lot more say in boxing than they do in MMA, and they have a lot more control over their purses and how their careers go. And I know a big gripes with MMA and the UFC has always been when you compare purses from the MMA standpoint to the boxing point, it doesn't compare. And a lot of MMA athletes are like, what the heck, man, this guy is making 3-4 times more than me, and I'm on the same level MMA-wise, and I'm making, just still 6 figures, making $200,000 for this fight when, you should be making 7 figures for a fight. So, there's still a lot to go on that sense, and I think they could still learn from that. But, you are right in terms of making the fights, but because of how the business is laid out and the fighters have every right to make as much money as they can because they're the ones fighting, they're the ones sacrificing, they're the ones taking damage in there. But, sometimes it does end up hurting the sport. And fighters are smarter and they see how Floyd managed his career and they think they can do that too. But they also need to realize, especially in boxing, you're not Floyd Mayweather, and that blueprint doesn't work for everybody, and it's not going to work for everybody. So don't go ahead and hold off on fights that you should be fighting because you're thinking you're going to get a bigger payday. Because, in fact, in my personal opinion, I think that hurts the sport. If you go into a fight that you should be going into, you're actually going to make more money if you go into it when it's supposed to happen because you're going to get a rematch and you can even get a third fight. And that's the potential to generate money there is a lot more than just waiting at times.
Got it. All right, my man. Thank you, Marcos, for spending some time with us here on MMA Junkie Radio. Please take us up on the fact that we'd really like to have you come in and host with us here in studio when you're in Vegas. And I know the sport of boxing brings you to Vegas a lot. Folks, follow him on Twitter. Hey, it's Marcos V. And again, Marcos, thank you very much for your time and congrats on all your success.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll hit you guys up when I'm in town in Vegas. It's going to be pretty soon, so I'll let you guys know about that.
Sounds good. All right, thank you. Enjoy your evening. All right, that's Marcos Villegas, SoCaler there.
He's always in a good mood, huh?
He is. Yeah, exactly. That's another thing I can say is very pleasant to chat with, whether it's MMA, boxing, or just how you doing, my man. You know what I mean? Credit to Jumbo Josh for lining that one up. And maybe I said it too quick, but here's Marcos' Twitter again. It's Hey, it's Marcos V. So HeyItsMarcosV. Follow him on Twitter. Follow his or subscribe to his YouTube channel. There's some really, really good ones in there from the sport of boxing. The one he did with Angel Garcia, I still fucking die laughing when I see it. Because Angel Garcia is just
He's
a character to begin with. But it was funny when they were kind of going back and forth because Marcos was just asking some questions. He was like, I want to talk about Swift. That's Danny Garcia's nickname. Talk to me about Swift. And he's like, well, we're getting there. You know, it's a line of questioning. But we'll see if we can pull that up one day and just play it over the air because it's hilarious. All right, folks. We are going to do the top of the hour break just a little bit early here. When we come back, remember the second hour, we have two guests headed your way, Liam McGeary and Jon Fitch, both fighting at Bellator 220, which takes place on April 27th. And we will, we'll sort all this boxing stuff and MMA stuff. We'll give you some dates and everything, because I know we're throwing a lot at you in the first hour. We'll be right back.
They can't agree on anything.
Everybody knows it's duck season.
Rabbit season.
Duck season.
Rabbit season.
Whether it's food,
Less filling.
Tastes great.
Less filling.
Tastes great.
gambling,
Always bet on black.
I like red.
Black.
Red.
Black.
Red.
Black, dummy.
or even social media,
Instagram.
Snapchat.
Instagram.
Snapchat.
the same applies to the biggest stories in MMA. Time for MMA Junkie Radio's Daily Debate.
By the way, is it me or has Snapchat kind of fallen off a little bit in the last year or so?
I haven't used it in a while.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Just asking. Today's hashtag daily debate question for at MMA Junkie Radio. Do you think Max Holloway's loss to Dustin Poirier at 155 pounds affects his credibility as featherweight champion? Yes or no? Goes?
Yes. And I'm going to tell you why.
Ooh.
Yeah. I love me some Max Holloway. But the way the UFC promotes people, we've talked about this all the time on the show. This is a what have you done for me lately sport. Okay? And the last image that people are going to have of Max Holloway is Dustin Poirier putting it on him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
He was competitive.
Yeah, but if you look at his face afterwards, now they're going to take that same guy and try and promote him as the baddest man at 145. Hardcores are going to understand that, but the casuals will not be able to get that out of their brain. Okay? It's just a difficult thing to do, and I could see if it were like him going up to 155 to face what people would say is a true 155er, but they've fought before at 145. Dustin's been a 145er. So I think it did kind of hurt him a little bit. I think it's going to take him some time.
Did BJ Penn's stock drop when he lost to GSP?
That's BJ Penn, though.
Well, Max Holloway, some are regarding him as even greater of a Hawaiian fighter than BJ Penn because of, well, I guess to be fair, at the top, BJ Penn was super popular, legend, Hall of Famer, everything. But
I think
Holloway has the title of possibly the greatest featherweight ever as well. So BJ Penn will always get like a preferential treatment when it comes to that, but I don't think it's that far apart.
It's difficult to promote him without bringing up that fight. That's why I don't like this whole champ stuff and jumping weight classes, because you're going to have this same situation. And it's tough to bring a guy back down and now say, he's the baddest man, when we just saw him get beat up by another guy. It's tough. Now, granted, yeah, he was competitive, but that look, it's just difficult to promote it now.
I felt like Penn didn't lose much when he did it, and I don't know. He's Max Holloway, and the UFC's pretty good and pretty brilliant at their marketing. Where if they reference that fight and show it, the attempt to fight and win a dual title, and he came up short. I think they can limit the way in which he's seen. His face all messed up. Hell, GSP looked like shit in fights that he won. But, you got a lot of other highlights, including beating Jose Aldo, who many regarded as the best featherweight as well.
But what did you have
if you
before?
notice, Holloway, he also lost to Conor McGregor. And yet in the build-up to Poirier, that one that kind of didn't get mentioned. But that's part of his history. In fact, it's part of Dustin Poirier's history. He lost to him as well. But it was avoided. It can be avoided. And I think another thing about MMA is, you're right. Like, if we reflect on the last fight, it will be this one. When Holloway has his next featherweight fight, the previous fight will have been this one. But I think people also have a short memory for that stuff, and they can have an adaptable memory for tenure.
But you had an unstoppable force at 145. How easy is it to market that? Unstoppable. And then you turn around and this happens. Now it's difficult. I'm telling you, it's
difficult.
I think it's difficult to go back to that.
I think it's a challenge, but difficult.
Yeah, because you got to basically act like that fight didn't happen.
How is it affected though? Like, you can't say he's not champ because he is. You can't say he's not one of. Even if you don't agree that he's the all-time best featherweight champ, you still can't say he's top 2 or 3, depending on where you have McGregor, Aldo, and Holloway. So what can you say? I mean, he's had an incredible run, and yeah, we hang this loss on him, but didn't he have like 13 wins in a row? Remember that MMA, that's rare. It's like the NFL. You just don't really go 16-0 and then win the playoffs as well. It's only been done one time. It's unlike boxing, for example, where you can go on these, hey, I'm 42-0 or whatever.
Well, it's because you have a lot of knuckleheads that don't even realize that was at 155. they're going to see it and go, wait a minute, he's still champ? Didn't he just lose? And then somebody with a brain is going to explain to him, well, yeah, but that was in a different weight class. Then they'll go, oh. But for the most part, I think people are going to go, wait a minute, this just happened. I think a challenge might be a good word. But I think there is a challenge in having to promote him now.
This is how the voting went. 90% said no. How about that? Finally, I win one. I'm usually in last place. 10% said yes, they agree with Goes. Look, here's a few from Twitter. Maria says...
She got at Maria?
Pinup Red 21 is her handle, but her
okay.
name is Maria. She says, not at all. It was a competitive fight. This is true.
It was.
He didn't get manhandled, which also helped BJ Penn, because that was a split decision, if I'm not mistaken. The first loss to George St. Pierre. The official, John671, at John C671, says, if he dropped down a weight class and got knocked the fuck out and ended up cheating, then it would. Jonathan Green on Twitter at JBlazeNYC says it does tell you Max has to stay at 145 for 2 or 3 more years. So we appreciate your votes, and we always try and read a couple comments when I remember. Almost 1,300 votes came in, but it was pretty one-sided there. We'll see. We will have a true answer to this when they both fight later in 2019, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. I imagine it'll be, Poirier and Nurmi. That should have been locked down. Holloway, though, that could be a whole other discussion. Who does he come back and fight? There's Volkanovski. I know Frankie Edgar's been piping up recently. Jose Aldo's never too far out of the equation. Zabit Magomed-Sharipov. I mean, that's a beast of a division there.
Last thing, though, you can't pretend like what happened at 155 stays at 155. The pain that he endured in that fight, the blood, the sweat, the tears, it goes right back with him at 140.
He left something there, that's for sure. He took some damage. The damage you can't reverse, that's for sure. All right, that was a fun one. Thank you to Junkie Nation, the readers of the site, the listeners of the show, again, for weighing in. We still have a few minutes to go before we talk to a couple of Bellator fighters. Both former champions. Liam McGeary, sorry. I think I might have said McGeary. Liam McGeary actually held the Bellator light heavyweight title. And Jon Fitch, though he hasn't been a Bellator champion, he held the World Series of Fighting. So both former champions in major organizations. They'll both be guests of ours here. McGeary has Phil Davis, and this is a pivotal fight. Davis is coming off a loss to Nemkov, if you'll recall. McGeary's actually coming off a win over King Mo. So this could be really, really big to have Mo and Davis on your wall if you're McGeary, and it definitely would help him possibly get a title shot against Ryan Bader. I think Ryan Bader's going to commit to defending 205 now that run in the Grand Prix is over. And if Phil Davis goes, well, I guess a third shot at Ryan Bader would be in the future for him. I don't know. I don't know what would be next necessarily. For Jon Fitch, this one's a little bit different. Now, this fight is he's fighting Rory Macdonald in one of the quarterfinals of the Bellator Welterweight Grand Prix. But in this case, Rory Macdonald's defending his belt as well.
Yeah, the belt's on the line.
So he's defending his belt, and it's a quarterfinal. If Jon Fitch wins, he advances to the semifinals, and I believe Neiman Gracie awaits him. Don't quote me on that. I will make sure 100% of that in just a second. But I believe that's the case, who got past Ed Ruth. But he would then defend the belt against Neiman Gracie. So very interesting. Now, through all this, don't forget $1 million goes to the winner of the Grand Prix. And when you've already won a belt, that money's pretty nice. That's going to be one of my questions to John. Like, which one are you more focused on? He came up a little short in his bid for the UFC. Remember, he fought, I think it was UFC 87. He fought George St. Pierre and came up short like many welterweights did. But he did win over a World Series of Fighting. That belt meant a lot to him, too. We were actually there that night when he won it. And I'm sure winning this one over Rory Macdonald and the rest of that field, that's an impressive field. That would be big for Jon Fitch as well. He's 41, though, now.
You know, I had Ed Ruth going to the end of that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, Ed Ruth, I think, is one of those that's going to benefit from an early loss in his career. I don't think he's made it to 10 fights. He's around that mark.
Mm-hmm.
And when you lose there, it can be, I think, a little bit more beneficial Then they get to like 17 or 18-0 and then lose. You saw what happened to Justin Gage. He lost 2 in a row.
Yeah.
And he hadn't lost through like 16, 17, 18 fights. Now he's been able to pick up the pieces, and he's been a beast since then. But a few of the fighters have noticed they get that early loss out of the way, and then that's that reality check. You know what I mean? Where you know that there's still holes to fill. You know that as much as you're chasing down those above you, there's people chasing you down as well. You just cannot get complacent in this sport. Never, never, ever, because it's like that. In fact, sometimes there's veterans that are older than you, more experienced than you, have had way more losses than you, and they find a second win to their careers. Look at Rafael Dos Anjos. What a beast that guy. I think he had gotten written off as a lightweight who just, he'll win like 3 out of 5 or 3 out of 4 or something like that. But is he ever going to be a champ? Man, most people didn't think so. He actually became a world champion in the UFC lightweight division. Robbie Lawler, same thing. Robbie Lawler's probably got like 10 or 12 losses. He was fumbling around. He did, no, I shouldn't say that. He won some belts, but he was outside of the UFC, and for many years people wanted him back in the UFC. He comes back to the UFC, gets back down to 170, became a beast and a respected champion, a very likable champion, had some wars with Carlos Condit and Rory Macdonald and Johnny Hendricks. Honestly, to be honest, he's had an incredible second go-around with the UFC. But there's been a lot of fighters that have been able to do that. Michael Bisping's another one that comes to mind. Dustin Poirier is another one that comes to mind, where they had some hardships. They had some really, really tough times, but they never gave up on themselves. You know what I mean? So, anyway, they'll be coming up here very, very shortly. I was able to find out, we got the internet working again, and I spoke about this earlier, but I think it's pretty important. I think a lot of people have heard this story and are hoping for, obviously, a happy ending, per se. I mentioned that Angela Magana, former UFC fighter, is in a coma following complications from an emergency surgery. An update came in today around 4:13 Eastern Time. It was a text message sent from her coach, Gabrielle. Her condition has improved. Quote, I just talked to the doctor, and there has been an improvement. Lamastis, that's Gabrielle's last name, Gabrielle Lamastis. She is moving her hands and toes and blinking her eyes. So
that's great.
Yeah, that's is really, really great news. But she fell into a coma because she had some surgery. And, I know this young lady is disliked by many, but you got to put that to the side, man. This is just a human being here. Exactly. Going through a lot. So, like I said, believers or not, prayers accepted, positive vibes, positive thoughts. Send them towards Angela Magana. In fact, here's her Twitter handle because they're posting from it at Angela Magana 1. And as we get updates, we'll also post. All right, let's talk to Kevin from Chicago. He wants to weigh in on Israel Adesanya. What's up, Kevin? How you doing?
What's up, guys? Yeah, Israel Adesanya and this John Jones beef. So people are getting on John Jones' case for responding to Adesanya, like, oh, you're the seniors picking on the freshmen, but Adesanya is the one who called out John Jones first. And John Jones just responding. He said, oh, I killed one goat, and I got to kill another goat. It's like, man, he beat a 44-year-old Anderson Silva, and you're bragging about that performance. And then you're going to call out John Jones. John Jones faced all the wrestlers. He's faced Ryan Bader, Rashad Evans, Daniel Cormier. Like, do you realize what Daniel Cormier would do to Adesanya? Take him down and smash him. Might even throw him out of the octagon with one hand. But, yeah, I just want to weigh in on that. I don't see people are giving John Jones shit for responding. I have no problem with it because Adesanya is the one who called him out first. But other than that, I want to talk about Ali Abaziz. He only got Kelvin Gastelum $150,000 for that fight. That took years off his life. And people are saying, oh, Ali's such a great manager and this and that. You only got your fighter $150,000 for that. He's got wins over Tim Kennedy, Jacare Souza, Michael Bisping, the former champ, and you only got him $150,000. That's pathetic. Terrible for the manager. I just want to get your guys' thoughts on that. Thanks for taking my call.
Okay. According to Adesanya, Jones called him out at UFC 234. So, depending on... I don't follow every goddamn story in mixed martial arts, but it wasn't just something recently. Like, Adesanya did the interview with TMZ Sports. Jones reacted to that. Adesanya was asked post-fight, what'd you think of what Jones said? And he said, I don't even want to give him his time or mention his name right now. And then took a few days to then address and say, hey, look, I think he feels like I'm everything he could have been. And so, but in digging through the story, which there's a story there on MMA Junkie where Anderson Silva has weighed in recently. He says Israel Adesanya crossed the line with disrespect of Jones. So he kind of took Jones aside a little bit. But if you go through that, there's a little bit of a timeline of how all that broke down. And then what was his other point?
Well, when it comes to Ali Abdelaziz,
okay.
Here's the one thing that I'll say about him. I've never heard a fighter that's under his management complain about him.
That's true.
They all love him. They all say that he goes to bat for them. So I don't know, man. I think the chances are that Kelvin's probably not pissed. I mean, he seems pretty happy. Ali gives him pretty good attention when he comes out here to Vegas. So I don't really think
he's saying that Gaston should be making more money. And
150 is pretty good. I think
after a fight like that,
I'm sure they get something else for a fight like that,
right?
But just
we always mention that when we post the salaries, that it's like we know that there's stuff behind the scenes, discretionary bonuses or
not as many as there used to be, but
right.
still happens.
Well, some say they're still out there. Others say, nah, man, they stopped doing that a long time ago. Depending on who you talk to. In the case of Kelvin Gaston, look, Kelvin Gaston's been with the UFC for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 or 13 fights.
He had a tough contract, though.
I scrolled it quickly. Correct. He did have
you have to
Ultimate Fighter contract. And then he also had a couple of mishaps there with the weight. I could see Gastelum at this point, whether there's one fight left or 4 fights left, being able to walk into Dana White's office and say, I'd like to renegotiate, and there not being much of a problem. Unless he says something ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So I think this is definitely where he'll take a bump up. He's been a team player. I think I mentioned this pre-fight. His last few fights before the one in Atlanta, he flew to Brazil to fight Souza, China to fight Bisping. He's fought Weidman in Long Island. And then he had another fight, I thought, where he had to travel. Oh, Vitor Belfort. Yeah, I forgot. Fortaleza, Brazil. So he's been a really, really good company man.
Yeah.
And he's taken his punishment as the middleweight, like, all right, I fucked up. Cool, who am I fighting? Hasn't really bitched too much about it and done very well for himself. So it took him a while, but he definitely got a lot of respect from a lot of the UFC brass. I think the pay will improve there. Look, Gastelum in the end, I imagine, gets the final call. Ali probably says, this is what they're offering, this is what we can take. From what I hear, Ali does pretty good when it comes to that, But I really don't know that for a fact. It's just, like you said, fighters talk, and that's what we hear.
Do you feel like any of that loss to Adesanya had to do with being a middleweight?
Say that one more time.
Do you feel like Kelvin Gastelum's loss to Israel Adesanya had anything to do with being a middleweight? Because eventually we said he's going to run into somebody that's just too big, too strong. Have you ever felt like he had that at all in this middleweight run?
No, he's just kind of like that fire hydrant type body. He may lose a little bit as far as like the reach, but was he able to reach Adesanya? Mm-hmm. He touched him with his hand.
I was surprised with that.
He was able to kick him. So I would love, under the discretion of the UFC PI, to see what he would look like as a welterweight. But at the same time, I've backed off the last few years after hearing about fighters going to the hospital or whatever. If this is what makes him happy, hell, he's banging with the best of them. Hey, tonight at 9:30 Eastern, so that's coming up, the Utah Jazz are going to tip off against the Houston Rockets in Game 2 of their first-round playoff matchup. Listen to the game on NBA Radio, Series 207, XM86, and streaming on SiriusXM connected devices and speakers. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking to Liam McGeary, Bellator light heavyweight, fighting at Bellator 220. All right. We'll be talking a little bit of Bellator here with the next couple guests. It's a really, really good card. In fact, somebody on Twitter said, what's better, this weekend's card, Bellator or UFC? Bellator gets them.
Yeah.
This week, yeah.
That's a good one.
The UFC's got, the Alexei Olenek card out in St. Petersburg, Russia, with Alexei Olenek and Alistair Overeem at the top of the bill. And there's a couple, solid fights there. There's a lot of, Eastern European fighters on there, and I'm sure many of them are talented, but name value, ranked fighters. I mean, look, the top has Rory Macdonald. He's one of the top at welterweight. The Grand Prix, I think, makes it an interesting twist. Then they got another champion there defending Elimele McFarlane versus Vida Arteaga. So 2 title fights, and then you got Phil Davis and Liam McGeary, 2 solid light heavyweights there, where you know that the stakes are high. Benson Henderson, former champion, not just in the WEC, but the UFC as well. He fights Adam Picoletti and Gaston Bolanos. Sure, maybe I'm homering a little bit. I like the kid, but he's fighting. But you cannot argue.
How do you hate him?
That he's not exciting. Yeah, exactly. He comes over from Muay Thai, and he's been doing pretty well in MMA. He took an early loss, but I anticipate this guy could be 9-1. He's only 2-1 right now, but he's got some skills. He could easily be 9-1. Not to take anything away from Nathan Stolen. That's his opponent, but we'll see. Look, get the 3 TV set up like we have. You can watch them all. The Bellator 220 card will be on the zone, 10 p.m. Eastern start times. Well, actually, you don't even need it. What am I thinking, goes? In Russia, they're starting off at 1 p.m. Eastern, so they're not even in any way overlapping or competing or anything like that. Hell, I think both cards, their biggest competition is just going to be basically the NBA and the NHL. Right now, I can tell you the Boston Celtics look like they squeaked out a win. I thought I saw a 96-91 score. They take a 2-0 lead over the Indiana Pacers. That's the game they needed to get. Toronto and Orlando, they're 1-1. Philly and Brooklyn, they're 1-1. Milwaukee and Detroit, I think, play tonight. Milwaukee's up 1-0 there, but I think Detroit might be missing homeboy that used to play for the Clippers. What's his name?
Blake Griffin.
I know he missed game 1. They got routed.
He's always hurt.
Yeah.
Always.
But this one was close. The Pacers had a lead in the fourth quarter, and that could have been a very, very winnable game. So credit to the Boston Celtics. How about the Lightning? I can't remember if we were already off the air or not, but they got swept, and they were the number 1 team in hockey during the regular season. Mm-hmm. They didn't lose in 7. They didn't even lose in 5. They got swept, and they got annihilated. Yesterday was 7-3. I think 2 were those open nets because, you fall behind, you pull the goalie.
3 of them.
3 of them?
Yeah. Dude, gambling in hockey's a nightmare.
Yeah.
There are people get so pissed off out here.
Gambling in general is just a nightmare. Hey, let me give you some love. Randy Couture was here a few weeks ago, and he was talking about the Ride for the Troops. The 11th annual Extreme Couture GI Foundation. It's called 11th annual Ride for the Troops, brought to you by the Extreme Couture GI Foundation. And it goes down on May 11th, Saturday, May 11th. This helps wounded warriors. It's $25 per rider, $10 for a non-rider. And they basically, it's called like a poker run. And they're going to make a bunch of different stops at different saloons or bars or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be pretty cool. Registration is at 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. on that day. They'll have free donuts and coffee. And the starting point will be the Las Vegas Harley-Davidson in Las Vegas. There's 2 of them here. It's 5191 South Las Vegas Boulevard. So it must be the one across the street maybe, or I don't know. Note the address, 5191 South Las Vegas Boulevard. Now that I think about it, there's one down on Rainbow.
On Rainbow?
Oh, yeah, okay. So, yeah, it's got to be that one. And the last stop will be the Pioneer Saloon in Good Springs, Nevada. For more information, 702-616-1022. Ask for Scott.
Hey, you're about like midlife crisis time. You gonna get like a bike or something like that?
No, and I think I got a buddy that's going through it. I think I already went through it.
Was that the Audi?
No, that's not really nothing like out of this world or anything.
So what'd you do?
I was actually trying to get a used car, and when it came down to it, just it wasn't that much more. It wound up being a new car, but I kept my ego in check. No, I got another buddy that's going through. I'm not going to sell him out, but...
come on, he sold out Boyd yesterday.
All right, I think Squid's going through it a little bit.
Ah.
Yeah.
I could see that.
It's just been like some purchases and trying to get a little bit of the swagger back. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think I've been pretty polite on texts. We have like a group text and shit. Are we ready to go? What's the update?
Almost. Josh's going to let us know, but we made a switch.
Oh,
We're
we made a
going
switch.
with Jon Fitch now, and they're kind of swapping here.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, that's fine, too. Let me just get my pages here in order. Jon Fitch can be followed on Twitter at johnfitch.net, spelled out. And Liam McGeary can be followed on Twitter at Liam_McGeary. So I guess we're going to flip-flop, and we'll go with Jon Fitch first.
Mm-hmm.
What were you going to say?
I think it had to do with midlife crisis.
Oh, why? Are you going through it?
Not yet, right? I need to get to
I think they say it can happen in the 40s.
40s. Well, I don't feel it yet where I need to do something stupid.
Uh-huh.
But I've never been like a big car guy. Never, I'm trying to think. If I were to do something extravagant, it would probably be around traveling. You know, like going to a Super Bowl or something like that.
Do you feel bad in any way? Not that you were ever close, but think about this, all right? Places that you would have wanted to go in the world when that thing happened with the Notre Dame Cathedral.
Yeah.
Just like Paris is a city I've always wanted to visit, and that's a stop I would have wanted to make.
Do that type of stuff.
Apparently, they're going to rebuild it. And it's going to take 5 years. But when I saw it, I was like, wow, imagine if that had just completely gone down. That would have been pretty sad. We're going to take a quick break here. It's a quick audible. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 156. Stay close. We'll be right back.
honestly, before it happens.
And you.
I feel like I got more out of an event than I've ever been to, and I've been to Super Bowls.
Hey, just want to say quick congratulations to you on your coverage of the event.
My experience with Tiger was I felt like a Beatles fan in 1962.
We're all reacting to Tiger Woods winning the 83rd Masters on Sirius 208 and XM 92, and streaming on your phone and at home on Sirius XM connected devices and speakers.
One of the great comeback stories in American sports history.
At Ice, and you get MMA Junkie Radio.
John Orlando, good friend of the show. But now on the hotline is former Bellator light heavyweight champion Liam McGeary. Liam McGeary is going to be fighting Phil Davis at Bellator 220 on April 27th. DAZN's got you covered with a 10 p.m. Eastern start time. Joining us now on the hotline is Liam McGeary. What's up, Liam? How you doing?
How you doing, buddy? I'm good.
All right, man. Welcome back to MMA Junkie Radio. You're on with George and Goes. Excited to get you on. Liam, you fought Phil Davis 3 years ago. You were 33. But the Liam I saw in the last fight, the 35 to 36-year-old, definitely a different fighter. How much better are you in these last 2-3 years?
Oh, much better. I've joined a new camp. I've took a different approach to everything, and I'm just getting better now. You know, the evolution of Liam is here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I was very, very impressed with the way you've rounded out your game, especially your wrestling. And what applied in the Mo camp, the Mo Lawal camp, can apply to the Phil Davis camp for sure. I know they're different fighters and, there's different techniques out there, but I also feel like that upped your confidence. You know what I mean? At least that's something that I noticed. I've been an observer of yourself. I've followed your career for many years. You know, Emmanuel Newton, Tito Ortiz, all those fights. But what I noticed is you're a lot more confident as well, a lot more swag and out there inside the cage.
Yeah, you know, I think I had to grow as a fighter. You know, when I first came in there, I was still very young and fresh in the game. But now I've got 16 fights behind me, and now I've fixed the holes that needed fixing. So everything's kind of fell into place, and I am where I'm at now just because of that.
Mm-hmm. Now, what have you been told? What are the stakes for this fight? I know Bader's been, doing this thing as a heavyweight, but I imagine at some point he's going to come back and either defend, or this thing's going to open up and fighters like yourself, Davis, and others are going to compete for some sort of a belt. But has there been any communication what the outline is for the 205 division at Bellator?
Nah, you know what? I just got told to concentrate on what I'm doing. You know, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'll concentrate on Phil, and then my management is taking care of the rest of it, and I've just got to do my job. Mm-hmm. And that's how I like it, really.
But you do have a goal of regaining the gold, or is that like the furthest thing on your mind?
Oh, get my belt back, you know. But the first things first is Phil is what's in front of me, so that's exactly who I'm going to be taking care of.
Mm-hmm. Yep, great opponent, man. I'm really looking forward to this fight. April 27th, folks. It all goes down. Bellator 220. Liam McGeary versus Phil Davis. We also have two title fights. Alima McFarland defends against Vita Arteaga for the women's flyweight title, and Rory Macdonald puts up his belt in that welterweight Grand Prix quarterfinal. Him versus Jon Fitch. Not only is he defending the belt, but they're both progressing in that Grand Prix. All right, Goes, what do you have for Liam McGeary?
Liam, looking back at your past fight, it was a very interesting fight because as soon as it was announced, the first thing that people said were, aren't they friends? That's going to be a little tough. And we talked to you about that, and we talked to King Mo about it. And you guys handled that with, the utmost class. It was really cool to see. But that being said, with it all happening, now going back, is that something that you would ever do? Not necessarily King Mo again, but a friend again? Because there's a lot of fighters that have a lot of problems doing that. And then there's some that have done it and just said, it wasn't as bad as I thought. What would you do in that case again?
Yeah, I mean, if you're friends, you can put it behind you, and just be like, listen, this is business. we're both getting paid. We're both putting food on our tables. So it's work at the end of the day. You do train with your friends, and you do have good punch-ups with your friends. So this wasn't any different. I wasn't trying to set out to hurt him. Although I'm glad that kick never landed, because that would have seriously hurt him. But it's a sport, and we're both still good mates now. I'll talk to him. I've been talking to him up in his fight camp coming up to. He's competing this weekend, I think.
Yeah, Rising.
Everything's all good, And to do it again, yeah, I'd definitely do it again. I have no problem with it.
Liam, with Phil Davis now in front of you, if you get that win, with a stoppage, do you feel like that would maybe stop having to fight for a third time, because he wasn't able to stop you when he beat you, but if you're able to stop him, is it kind of like taking away the need to have a third fight?
Yes, I believe so. I mean, like 5 rounds, he still never finished me. And like I'd finish me in 5 rounds if I was to fight me now. That old me was a year and a half off of out the sport. I'd had surgery. I was still rehabbing my legs, and everything was not really in place. And now I'm 100%. Everything's working in order, and I just can't wait to go in there and put on another show. And I do like finishes. The only one fight that I've had which has gone the distance is Emmanuel Newton. So I don't really like leaving it down to the judges.
I've always been impressed with that, by the way. You're right. Of your 13 wins, 12 are finishes, 7 KO, 5 submission, so pretty balanced there. And a lot of fans and a lot of MMA media just we always look to that, you know what I mean? And I believe those fighters get the benefit of the doubt a lot of the times, whether it comes to matchmaking, rankings, or whatever. The ones that are going out there and finishing just seem to get a little bit more love, you know what I mean?
Well, I'm happy to hear that.
All right. Well, listen, thanks for joining us here on the MMA Junkie Radio Show. You versus Phil Davis. I love that matchup. Cannot wait for it. And as always, thank you for the time you gave us here on today's show, man. Good luck with the rest of the camp. Safe weight cut. And good luck on the 27th.
Thanks very much, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
Okay, we'll see you. Cheers. That is Liam McGeary, who is coming off a big win over King Mo Lawal. No one, including yours truly, thought he was going to win that fight. And not only did he go out there and win, he was very, very impressive in many facets of his game that night. He's right, though. He's picked up the pieces. He's fighting at Ryzen. I mentioned that as well for the inaugural light heavyweight title there. Mo's also held a major belt. He was a Strikeforce light heavyweight champion. All right, here we go. John Orlando, welcome. How you doing? I think the first one was kind of half-assed. Sorry about that.
Yeah, man. I just came by to say hi, and here I am.
Yeah, no, well, I always get a kick out of just chatting with you, and I was like, what are you going to do, sit there, man? You might as well just come over here and hang with us. Actually, our last 2 guests, we were having trouble locating them, but one of them happened to pop in just as you were jumping in there. But can I tell you a funny story?
I'm going to tell you one, too, when you're done.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, about him.
Oh, God, I already know what you're going to say.
No. So you couldn't possibly know what.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
This guy amazes me every time I talk to him because – as you all know, or if you don't, his dad is Tony Orlando, very, very popular singer for many years, especially here in Vegas. But, he's traveled all over the United States, all over the world. And so that's John's dad. And the other day, when I took Mom to the Peruvian consulate? And by the way, Jumbo Josh, you'll give me the heads up, right, on Fitch?
100%.
Okay, all right. Maybe he's working on that now. Mom and I, we had gone to watch Manchester United play at Rocco's Restaurante or some shit like that in Westwood after the Peruvian consulate. When we were in Westwood, somehow we started talking about OJ or something. And I go, because, OJ thing was like 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And I go, it was around here. I used to know where he lived. I think I had driven by once. And then where the alleged attack occurred or whatever. It had actually become a sightseeing spot, as grotesque as that sounds. No disrespect to the Brown family and and the Goldman family, but just that was a thing in Hollywood. So her and I were driving, and we just weren't ready. You know, it was like 3 p.m., and we weren't ready to sit on a fucking freeway. So I was like, let's just drive around. And I remember John had told me that he was neighbors with OJ. Did you know that, Gus?
He lived across the street, right?
Yeah, so you did hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, he lived across the street. In fact, he lived in the house.
Yeah.
That I didn't know.
Where OJ lived prior to moving
okay.
and then becoming the neighbor.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, if anyone knows, John knows. And so I started calling John, and we're doing the FaceTime. And he's like, yeah, that's it right there. All right, make a right and do this and do that. And I couldn't find the OJ house because it kind of changed for one. And two, the address had changed as well. I get it. You know, people, they want to throw anybody off.
Mm-hmm.
Not by much, but they did throw it off. So we were having a blast. But then he tells me, he goes, well, you want to hear a story? He goes, I could tell the...
Yeah.
Yeah, he goes, you want to hear a story? And I go, sure. He goes, go to commercial, and when you come back, you can tell the story. So guess what?
Okay.
You all have to wait for the story. But it's a pretty good story. So there you go, Junkie Nation. Yeah. I'll share that story when we come back. Pretty amazing guest that John Orlando, the Orlando family had back when they lived over there. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 156. Stay close. We'll be right back.
Here are George and Goes.
All right, we're back. Joined by John Orlando from the Action Junkies podcast, along with Jake Ellenberger. They produce the show about once a week, right, John?
Yeah.
All right, catch it, folks.
Yeah.
I've been on it. Enjoyed it. Enjoyed my time. Haven't been back.
One of our highest rated shows, actually.
Oh, yeah?
That's a true story.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
you and my dad.
Anytime you need me. I thought Boss Rudin was the one that edged me out or something like that.
He did at the time.
Oh, and then
but
your dad crushed it?
Then my dad crushed it, yeah. But over time, people still tune in. Crazy.
All right.
Who knew?
So I was saying, when I was in L.A. driving around, John, as he's describing where OJ used to live and where they used to live, he just happens to drop on me. He goes, yeah, man. He goes, one time we had Gerald Ford's wife, Betty Ford, over for dinner, and the Secret Service was there, and there was helicopters flying all over the place, and what's going on?
Our fighters
so
ready to go.
so I'll finish that story in just a second here.
That was terrible sign language just now.
What? I'm either a gorilla
milking a cow. I don't know what that was.
No, it looks like we were able to locate our guest, Jon Fitch, our last guest of the show. Jon Fitch, former WSOF welterweight champ, former UFC contender, now a Bellator welterweight. He is a quarterfinalist in this Grand Prix. He fights Rory Macdonald, not only to advance in the Grand Prix, but Macdonald's defending his belt. Joining us now on the hotline is Jon Fitch. Hey, John, what's up, man? Welcome back to MMA Junkie Radio.
Hey, guys. Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Good talking to you.
Yeah, you too, man. We don't talk to you as much as when you lived in Vegas, but it's always great to catch up with you. You liking it back there, back in California? You know, water droughts, state taxes. You sure you don't want to come back?
Oh, man. I do love this town. I like the love-hate thing. The taxes certainly are not fun. But, it's got a lot of great people, and the people here make up for all the other crap.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a quick personal question before we get going here on X's and O's, you and McDonald, blah, blah, blah. When you lived in Vegas here like 5 years ago, I remember you were pushing the Bitcoin. When that thing blew up, were you able to cash some big checks, or what happened there?
I profited off of my investments. I did well. I mean, I wish I would have done a lot better. I wish I would have bought more when it was $200. But and I wish I would have cashed out when I hit 17. But,
okay.
17,000, that is. If I would have put a few $1,000s into it at 200 and then cash out at 17, I wouldn't be fighting right now. I'd be in a helicopter over my yacht.
All right. Well, either way, I just remember you, I think, being the first person that brought Bitcoin into, my radar. And
he gave us a good explanation one day about how it all worked. That's why when that went down, I was thinking, when's that Jon Fitch hotel going up on the strip?
Exactly.
Yeah, man. I mean, and it's still, it's still going. It's still, it's back up above 5,000 again. I think it's just, it's good technology. I don't think fiat money is going anywhere. But, I think Bitcoin or some type of digital currency is going to be around. I think eventually it's going to take over some form of it. It's going to take over credit cards companies. It's just easier, more secure. It's faster transfers, faster transferring money. Right now it looks like Bitcoin's being used as a store of value, and that's fine for right now. But we'll see if anything else pops up and if there's any useful things to it. But that's a whole other story.
Yeah, I always felt like if Amazon or Walmart or someone accepted it, then it's off and running. Do you know if it ever came close to that, or if that ever happened?
No, but there are services who will. You can buy like gift cards from certain services, I believe.
Okay.
It's been a while. I'm just using it for store money right now. I'm not doing anything with it. I'm waiting to see if it increases, to like the exponential price that they claim.
Mm-hmm.
But you can definitely trade it for you can get like Amazon gift cards and different things from certain services.
Right on, my man. All right, so you're fighting Rory Macdonald. This Grand Prix, man, I love it. First of all, they had 8 great names. Cool. They had veterans. They had the champion. They had undefeated fighters. I felt like the matchups made sense. But again, the champion defending along the way is pretty cool. And then 50 Cent throwing in the cool mill Damn, it don't get any better than that.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. You gotta love 50 Cent. I started following his Instagram account. That dude's hilarious.
Yeah, big time.
He's just a savage. He's got money and he's got all kinds of business going on. So he just doesn't care. He says whatever he wants to, making fun of people constantly. He makes fun of Mayweather quite a bit.
What's driving you more, the quest for gold again, or the money? And the reason I ask, because I know a lot of people go, man, he's in his 40s, he wants the money. But I was there when you won your title at World Series of Fighting, and I could tell how much the title meant to you. That's why I ask, and I'm curious for your answer.
I'm in it for the story, babe. I've got a title already. The title will be amazing, but I think this is just one incredible story to be 41-year-old fighter who's been in the game 17 years, winning not only a title, but defending it twice to win a tournament and $1 million. I think there's a book or a movie in there somewhere.
Big time. I agree. All right, Goes, what do you have for Jon Fitch?
John, when you look at Rory Macdonald, his skill set over the last couple of years, he's a tough fighter. Do you feel like his game has evolved very much in the last year or so? Are you expecting that same Rory Macdonald?
Yeah, I expect him to be tough. He's got good stand-up, pretty good wrestling, good jiu-jitsu. He's well-rounded. Everybody's tough and well-rounded these days, so you got to show up and fight. He brings an extra toughness that a lot of guys don't have, so I think this could be a very bloody, type of blood and guts type of fight, and a little bit of a war of attrition. So I'm ready for that. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Who do you want to meet in the finals?
I'll take it one fight at a time. I think Lima's probably going to end up winning, but you never know. I don't care. I've been doing this for so long. I don't care.
Yeah.
I just want to fight. I want to take it one fight at a time, and put my best effort in to win this tournament.
All right. Hey, it's got to be a quick one today, but I'm glad we were able to catch up at least a little bit. It's always great talking to you, John. I hope you have a safe camp, whatever's left of it, and good luck on April 27th against Rory Macdonald. Thanks for the time.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll see you. All right, thank you to the team at Bellator, CJ, Dan, Danny, Ryan, all those guys for setting it up, and, of course, Jumbo Josh for the juggling act and getting it all together. All right, John, I feel like I almost teased you here. Hey, sit down. And
it's
all
okay.
These stories, we're going to run out of time quick. But basically, that's what happened. Betty Ford came over for dinner. What was the occasion? Just
to come over and hang.
Yeah,
Crazy,
was her and your dad were good friends, or was she a fan of his singing?
My dad, I'm not sure how my dad became friends with them, but I think he did the Ford's inauguration.
Oh, I see.
If I remember. I was so
only
little.
She came over, or the president as well?
Only she came over, but it was while he was president.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why he didn't come.
Okay.
But
and you were all like tuxedoed out or suited out?
Yeah, well, I wasn't allowed to be at the dinner.
Really?
So, yeah, I met her like when she first came in.
You, Billy
and
Madison?
I had to go up to my room, yeah.
How old are you?
Man, I want to say 8 or 9.
Oh, well, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
That was your
but
dad's
it was crazy.
call?
They sent Secret Service like a month before she even got there, like with bomb-sniffing dogs and stuff in our house, and like they had a sniper on our roof on the night of. They had a guy, like a plainclothes.
And that was
Secret
40
Service
years ago, right?
Yeah, man. They had a plainclothes guy riding around the neighborhood on a bicycle. Like they had fake joggers, but they were Secret Service people. Like they really, it's crazy how that.
So wherever
works.
they go, it's like that, and probably to the 10th degree now, right?
Yeah.
Now 40 years later.
Yeah.
Holy crap! Yeah. Imagine those guys that used to follow Bush's twin daughters in the Texas campus. I think they went to the University of Texas.
They get 2, right?
They used to drink and party.
I think so. 2 for life.
For
right?
life,
yeah.
2.
Yeah.
And then, I had Secret Service pull a gun on me.
Really?
I told you that story.
I think so.
Yeah, with Clinton.
Because you reached for a camera or something?
Yeah, but you go through all these metal detectors and everything to get there.
Right.
So I don't know, I pulled a disposable camera when I went like this. They all pulled out guns. I was like, whoa.
Seriously, that could have been ugly.
Yeah.
It would have all been gone in a flash.
Oh, my God. Oh, really?
Hey,
that was pretty good, actually.
That was not bad.
I think that was good.
Yeah.
All right. Follow John Orlando. Check out the Action Junkies podcast. It's on iTunes. Leave a comment, leave a review. It helps us all out, just like I always tell you the same about the MMA Junkie radio show. All right. We got to get out of here. Thanks to Liam McGeary. Thanks to Jon Fitch for his time. Thank you. In the first hour, we had Marcus Villegas. Sorry. My bad there. Tomorrow we'll be joined by Chris Curtis fighting over at PFL. PFL season's going to be starting soon. Walt Harris will also be joining us, and maybe a couple other guests. For Jumbo Josh and Goes and John, I'm George. Have a nice day. Go out there and don't just take up space on this planet. Be a champion. What's the update on Schmo?